I'm curious, what made you get interested in this?
So when I was about 15, when I was a freshman in high school, I suffered from an eating disorder and I was put in rehabilitation and a lot of different counseling services over a course of time. So I recovered
Right.
over the years, but it's kind of just been something that I'm really passionate about, especially like being interested in fashion for a huge part of my life. I realized that
Right.
I love the industry, but there's also parts of it that definitely contributed to my negative body image. And I think there's definitely not enough awareness about not only how it impacts body image, but also the effects it has on mental health and eating disorders, because I think it's a very taboo subject that people don't want to talk about. But I just want to be,
Very true.
you
Yeah,
know,
but needs to be spoken about, right?
right. And I want to kind of be that middleman that says it's okay to talk about it. This is a real issue. And if we don't talk about it, then there's going to be all these people suffering in silence and we won't even know.
Wow, that's amazing. Amazing. Well, I'm happy to be part of it and happy to help in any way I can.
I definitely felt the need to have something to control, and of course at the time I had no idea that this was going to become my struggle and something that very much could have just killed me.
As you go through this week, be aware of the judgments you make about your body. Stop imagining you can be something that you're not, and embrace and accept yourself exactly as you are. Notice and release the comparisons you make about yourself versus others. Feel comfortable in your own skin and see how it changes the way you approach the world. We all have questions about our bodies, and the most important thing is that how do we develop like body positive imageries about ourselves. And one of the things that we need to do is actually to stay away from 3 negative attitudes, right? And this is how we develop positive body images. And one of that is perfectionism, right? So it's holding ideals or standards that are impossible to achieve. And so I know that no matter how much I hold in my derriere, it won't be whatever. Therefore, I need to get over that, and I need to figure out different ways to appreciate the parts of me that just tends to just stick out all the time. Number 2, and actually you taught me this today, is that comparison, right? Making social comparisons with others. You know, if we keep doing that, we're always going to have negative body images. And number 3 is being highly critical or judgmental. So the more critical and judgmental we are of others, the more likely we are to be critical of ourselves.
Hi, my name is Evelyn. I'm 20 years old. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 12 years old.
Hi, I'm Alexis. I was diagnosed with vitiligo when I was 2 years old, and I've just been living my life through that. And I just want to represent and show to all women and men that, you know, just because you may have lighter patches of skin on your body, you're still golden.
Hey everyone, I'm Abby Sams. I'm 21. I'm a disabled college student, and I am a public speaker as well as a disabled athlete and model who's working to bring more representation about physical disabilities and chronic illnesses to mainstream media. And it being overdone is saying that representation shouldn't be done, and that's the complete opposite of what we want happening. It shouldn't just be one company doing it all. It needs to be many companies doing all of those things to the best of their ability so that everyone can feel represented by every company.
I think that the fact that this room is so full means that we crave it, and it's not overdone because we're still craving it so much and we want more of it, and it's not being done enough.
It's
and
a
it should
discussion.
it should be standard.
I just have a question. As an older brother, sometimes I don't always know what to say to my little sister, and it's just harder because I'm not home. Like, she's in Atlanta and I'm here, and my mom and grandma, as the Southern women they are, don't always have the best things to say to her because she's a little bit on the thicker side, and I just don't know sometimes as an older brother and just as a male kind of how to make her realize that no matter how she looks, she's always going to be beautiful.
Yeah. First of all, I love the fact that he's here.
So he's amazing.
That's great. And I think something that you can remind your sister is that her body is her body's always changing, whatever it is. The body is always in some type of transition. So just remind her that, you're beautiful still, and not even beautiful physical wise, most definitely, but your personality is what draws people into you,
I look at what Aries been able to do with untouched photography. I see more and more brands, and we see it in Calvin, we see it in Tommy, we see it in True & Co., that are saying we're confident in who we are, we're proud of who we are, and we're comfortable in the bodies we're in. We want to accept everyone for whoever they are and however they live their life. And I think it's so much about, we do foster inclusivity and diversity as a brand, and we honestly stand behind it because we do believe that there is no room for intolerance. But we just signed an Open to All pledge. It's an inclusivity pledge for businesses, and it was signed also by Gap and Levi's, and that is to affirm inclusion and diversity regardless of race and ethnicity. That means you have to operate in a world that says everyone is accepted and celebrated. It's not just good for companies, it's good for business, it's good for companies, and it's good for associates. And I think that's the new filter of how people make decisions, is it has to hit on all three things. If you can be controversial, and controversial in a way that makes a difference, it's great. And I think that's why the brand to me is so special, that it's controversial for all the right things, and that's how you make societal differences in a business that you run. And what's a better platform than an amazing brand that's that powerful to do that and evokes emotion on both sides? So that means you're making a difference.
I think we can all agree that art isn't just about being pretty, and fashion is merchandisable art in the end. It is the exact crossroads between money and business and art. And beyond that, it's on someone's body. So it's like someone wearing a painting next to their skin. It's that important. What we wear and how we see ourselves can really impact our daily life. And I think really understanding the gravity of that and the potential it has for change and good is something that needs to be pushed.
I think a pivotal moment for me that made me self-reflect on myself in a negative way was seeing the Victoria's Secret's fashion show in high school. And I remember watching that and thinking, that's what I want to look like. I have to be like that. So I would remember for like a year in high school, I had a treadmill by a TV in my basement, and I would run while watching that show, being like, okay, I'm going to get to that body type, I'm going to look like that. And it made me really hate the way I looked, and I was a year of my life that I look back on, and it really sucked. Like, I went every day hating the person I saw in the mirror instead of embracing myself and embracing that my healthy, like she was saying, my healthy is going to look different than theirs. And
like, never police or comment on somebody's body in a negative way. Like, if you don't know them, even if you know them, just like
sometimes even if you think it's positive, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because I had an experience where two different people who were older at work, one was a man, one was a woman, for what it's worth, talk about my body all the time to me, like being like, you're so small, you're so petite, you're so adorable, like over and over again in a workplace setting. And one or two times is not really that big of a deal for me, and it's not like they were saying anything hurtful, but eventually, like, it started to really get to me because
it's uncomfortable.
Well, just don't talk about someone's body to them. Like, that's why a lot of times when I'm not comfortable going up to ask people to be fit models, because you have to say, hey, what size are you? Hey, this, hey, that. Here, I've looked at your body, and this is what I think about it. And really, it's no one's business. And a lot of people really feel like they can comment on people's bodies, whether it's about the shape or the size or how tall you are. They think because they're thin, I can say whatever I want because it's been easier for them. Or some people think because like they have to comment on someone's health if they're bigger or more curvy woman. Like, it's just not healthy. Like, I just want to help you, like that kind of thing. And I just wish people like just care less. just say less, don't comment on it, it's not important. The only thing you should be saying is like, I love your hair, you look really pretty today. Also the expectation that fashion is linked to sexuality, whether that's sexual orientation or like sex appeal, which it often is for both men and women in different ways, and how we often think we look better in things because people will find them more sexy, and people assume that if you're wearing something that's more typically sexy or shows off your body in a certain way, you're doing it for other people. And there's that inherent link between sexuality and fashion that I don't think is good, especially when you get it on younger people growing up. Like, you don't want to impose anything on that. It's just it's weird that that exists to me. Like, clothing and sexuality don't really have to do with each other at all, and yet we have this deep cultural connection there.
Yeah.
The fashion industry is lacking diversity in so many ways. We started so low in terms of representation and diversity. You'll know that there's progress when plus-size women are featured in a fashion show or a catalog or a shoot or a spread, and we don't report on it. We don't say this plus-size model is making waves. I think it's going to be a long time before that, and we've got a lot of work to do.
Most of the diversity right now is focused on racial, which is awesome, and we need more of that as much as possible, and also plus-size cis women, like cisgender women, and that's great, and we super need that. We love the curvy models, but also people aren't even talking about plus-size cisgender men, let alone anything in between.
There's a lack of flexibility for men, and it's just because they're so like bound to these like super strict roles still. There's not enough happening to kind of change that in fashion.
The fashion industry is part of a bigger, it's just a cog in the machine that's working to get people to hate their bodies, and that machine is like society and capitalism.
So body dysmorphia, for me, it means it's something that you see that's not there. So for me, I can look in the mirror one day and feel completely fine and confident and accepting of what I see. And then the next day, I look in the mirror and I feel like I gained 20 pounds, which is pretty much impossible in one day to gain 20 pounds. And logically, I know that. Rationally, I know that. But the body dysmorphia is almost the way of like the eating disorder slowly kind of still attaching to you and hanging on and making you feel like what you see is true, but in the end it's kind of more emotional. And I know for me, the moments I feel the most anxious or depressed or sad or angry or whatever emotions that I have yet to let out, it's almost like they're taking over my body and adding pounds on and fat on, and then it's almost like I see all those emotions in the form of how my body looks. In 2012, my life kind of felt out of control. My parents had just divorced. I moved in with my mom and was beginning a brand new high school experience. So with all of that, I definitely felt the need to have something to control. And of course, at the time, I had no idea that this was going to become my struggle and something that very much could have just killed me. Everything was just focused on calories and numbers and food and how much I was burning, how much I was eating. And at the time, I had no idea what was soon to become anorexia. I thought this was just me taking care of my health and wanting to lose a couple pounds here and there. That's my eating disorder experience. And I think a huge misconception is that people choose to go down this spiral. People choose to not eat. There's this chemical imbalance and you just spiral. And especially if your life is seeming out of control, you want that control over one thing. And for me, that was food. But it's not just about the food. It's way deeper. And that's what I want to get across. It's not just, oh, if you gain a couple pounds back, you'll be fine. Or if you keep eating, if you start eating, you'll be recovered. That's a huge misconception and something I want to clarify and clear up. I remember my first time in treatment. I was at Renfrew Residential Center in Philadelphia, and we had art therapy, and I loved this. I loved being able to express myself through art. And my first time around, I painted a bird in a cage. That's how I felt. I felt like I was caged in. And the second time I went back. During art therapy again, I painted a bird, but this time free, and I wrote the words uncaged underneath, and the ED I wrote bigger and in a different color. I just felt like I was more ready to truly give recovery a try, and that's what uncaged means. It means that I had the key. I've been having the key. We all have that key, and that key is recovery to anyone struggling with an eating disorder. And the cage symbolizes the eating disorder, whether it's anorexia, bulimia, binge eating disorder, EDNOS, whatever it is that you're struggling with, that's that cage. And I totally feel that. I totally remember feeling so imprisoned and not being able to just be free, because the only things that were in that cage with me were thoughts about food, calories, numbers, all of that. And finally, recovery became that key, and slowly it was opening up the cage until finally I was able to fly free and truly experience everything that recovery came with, which is living, freedom, just being able to do things without those thoughts constantly spiraling through my mind, being able to finally hang out with friends and be with my family and celebrate holidays. And it's just this feeling of taking a huge deep breath and letting it out. And when you let it out, it's like I can breathe, I'm free again. And that's what being uncaged means to me.
That's what we definitely do. Turn the tape.
What's wrong with being confident? Oh, what's wrong with being? What's wrong with being confident? Whoa!
Slipping up and struggling is absolutely part of the road to recovery, and it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. A life free of the eating disorder is worth fighting for. You are worth fighting for.
One important thing I learned about recovery is the importance of vulnerability and allowing ourselves to lean on our support systems. Because vulnerability is strength, and we can't do it alone.
As a member of the NIDA staff, I've witnessed firsthand the strength it takes to ask for support. Through the people we serve, I've learned that asking for help and support is not at all a sign of weakness. In fact, reaching out to someone can be the first step or the 100th step towards recovery.
Parents and loved ones, make sure you take care of yourself while your loved one is going through their treatment. Continue doing the things that you enjoy so you can better help them in their recovery. Never lose hope, and always believe that recovery is possible.
As a mother, you naturally want to fix your child because that's what mothers do. We put Band-Aids on boo-boos and we kiss them goodbye. But unfortunately, I found that in eating disorder, this is not possible. You find yourself frustrated and keep trying harder and harder, not realizing that you are worsening the situation. Many days I reminisce back to her recovery journey and how our mother and daughter relationship strengthened because of my understanding of what she carried inside. And look at her today.
Keep strong and know there's purpose in your pain, there's purpose in your journey, and there's purpose in you right now, exactly as you are.
In recovery, I've learned that it's okay to speak. Even if my voice shakes, it's brave to speak up. Thank you.
Hey now, this is my 5th walk, which is incredible, and I feel so grateful that you've all welcomed me into the NIDA family. When you've gone through your own eating disorder and recovered, there is no better feeling than being able to advocate to make sure that you can try and end the stigma and help others survive. So I encourage you all, no matter where you are in your journey, if you're not there yet, it's okay, it takes time, but just know that when you are recovered, there is hope and there is something beautiful that can come out of what you've been through. We were saying the other day, it almost feels like sometimes you were trapped underground and it was dark and it was muddy and it was unclear if you would ever be able to get out. But you can and you will, and you're a seed that is growing, and you're going to keep on growing, and you're going to blossom, and you're going to look around and you're going to see all the other survivors, all the other warriors, and you're going to feel connected. So don't be afraid to reach out and get help. That is always the first step, is knowing that the help is there, the NEDA helpline is there, we've got the online resource tools. I wish I would have found that when I was in the UK, in a tiny little town called Kidderminster, wondering what I was going through, not understanding why, when I looked at myself in the mirror, I absolutely hated what I saw. And every single part of my body I would break down, and I would have like this enemy, this other alter ego that would look back at me and say I wasn't good enough. And it crippled me. It made me feel like there was no tomorrow. It made me feel like there was no hope, that I couldn't find the confidence to do the things I wanted to do in life, and that I was not deserving of worth and value. Sometimes we are ignoring the people around us that say that we're creative, that we're funny, that we're amazing. We make them feel good. We're a good friend. We're a credible daughter. Whatever it might be, don't forget those things. They make you who you are. Yesterday I was actually in the Aerie store, and shout out to Aerie for always supporting NEDA. Thank you. Again, you make so much of this work possible, and we are here today for a reason. So let's all celebrate each other. Let's all honor each other's journeys and each other's stories. We are going to honor the people that have lost their lives, and we're going to celebrate the people who are going to recover and are the hope and are the future, and are going to stand up together and make some noise today. Like, let's not be ignored. Let's not be silent any longer, okay? So I want you to enjoy today. You're all amazing.
Disorder. I've learned how important it is to believe that you deserve to recover. When I began to understand that I was invaluable, that the world needed my insight and my empathy and every attribute of mine that is uniquely me, it unlocked a lot for me. The world needs every single person in recovery at their fullest. Our eating disorders are only working to keep us from offering ourselves and everyone around us the unique, unadulterated magic we have to offer. And to me, body dysmorphia is two things: perception and fixation, and the perception part is looking in the mirror and seeing something different, looking at a photo and seeing something different, and the fixation is how you can take a part of your body or several parts of your body and just become so obsessed and consumed with it and by it that it overcomes you in every way, and it affects the way that you see yourself in every way. It's important to recognize that men struggle with eating disorders as well, boys and men, and body dysmorphia, and the reason that is often neglected is sort of the same thing that comes with these like stereotypes and these assumptions people make about people with eating disorders, and one of them is of course that women and girls are the only people who are affected by eating disorders. So I think it's important to it's just so easy to be like, oh, an eating disorder can happen to anyone. That's it. So for me, my eating disorder experience began when I was about 17 years old, and it became an identity for me as someone who is not comfortable in their own skin. I was, on top of being a closeted gay man, super insecure across the board, and when I started to develop an eating disorder, without even realizing it, this eating disorder manifested itself in me, and specifically it was anorexia, and I just began to lose more and more weight, and before I knew it, it was a full-blown thing, and yeah, and then I was fortunate and privileged enough to be able to receive the treatment I needed to after about a year of really struggling and getting to a pretty dangerous point.
It's sad to think about, but in terms of even just how health insurance works, people just can't even receive the treatment, and with that, just more and more eating disorders are going without treatment, and then that just keeps spiraling.
People think that it's a choice, and it's not. I don't think anyone would choose to live this way if they could help it.
I think a common misconception that I would like to debunk is that like people who are heavier struggle more with eating disorders, and that's really not true. It can be like anyone of any size. And there's a lot of stigma around eating disorders, and I think it's definitely still an issue today. Everyone has things that they would change about their body, and it's very tragic when that manifests as an eating disorder, but it's not uncommon.
Body image wise, I feel like almost every woman, every man struggles with their body image, and they're not completely happy or loving of what they see in the mirror. And I think a lot of that is because of the media we're seeing or the social media accounts we follow. I want to be vulnerable and authentic and just put it all out there, because I'd rather be an open book than pretend like everything's perfect or pretend that I have this perfect body with photoshopping it or whatever it is people do on their photos these days. I feel like there's a lot of that as well. And people are just following these accounts that are constantly retouching their photos and filtering them so much as to morph their body into a different body and make people think that's how they truly look, when the ratio is just not even real. And people blindly follow these accounts thinking that this is how the person looks, this is what's healthy, this is what looks good, and they want that body type. So sometimes that just means they'll do whatever they can to achieve that, when in the end it's unachievable. No one is perfect, and that's literally because we are human beings.
I think that brings up why social media depression is now a thing. So you can get that just from looking at it, like those young middle schoolers who have Instagrams and those high schoolers and even young adults and at any stage in life. You look at those images you see on social media and everybody's posting like the perfect pictures. You're only seeing the happy. But some people will still succumb and not realize that you're only seeing the happy. When you only see, oh, people are posting their best days, you're going to think they have the perfect life or they have the perfect body, the perfect clothes, blah, 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 X, Y, Z. And so they're going to become depressed because they're like, why is my life not like that? Why am I not always happy? Why am I not traveling the world at 20 or something? Like, why don't I have a Gucci belt or something? So like, it just, the social media depression is real, and some people think it's maybe not a thing or whatnot, but like, the fact that that has been a thing and a lot of people have been diagnosed with that, a lot of people resonate with that new phenomena. It just shows how much social media has changed the industry, how much it has changed peer influence, how much it's changed fashion and media and our own self-worth and our own mental health.
And I think the change from accepting your body image doesn't come from the outside at all. It's in here. It's in your heart, and it's in who you surround yourself with. And I think it's about mind, body, soul health, rather than health, which is how everybody else sees you. I think a big part of that change and that progression is women of all shapes and sizes accepting their bodies and saying, my goal is to be healthy. My healthy looks very different than Ash's healthy, but that doesn't mean that your beauty is unequal to somebody else's. And I think that that's something that a lot of people forget.
I mean, it's like the same, everyone's been talking about this now. I mean, it's like everything isn't real, you know? People don't post things when they're having a bad day, you know? People only post pictures that, you know, they think looks the best. We can take 1 million now, right? Like, and choose. You can stand a certain way, you can filter it. So just from like regular, like people, not famous, always post their best pictures. Then you have the celebrities, you know, and there's photoshopping, and it's just, I mean, there's been so much out there that compares the original picture with the Photoshop picture, and it's so different. So I started teaching yoga for eating disorders through a nonprofit group called Kula for Karma, and that's how I met Melanie, because she's a psychotherapist who also specializes in eating disorders, and she's a yogi. Like, she loves, been practicing forever. So we met through a training I was leading to teach other yoga teachers about how to teach a yoga for eating disorders class. And we said, gosh, wouldn't it be great if there was like a place like this that we could come to, and the services and everything was just under one roof. So Body Positive Works, where we're here right now, is it's a wellness center, for lack of a better term, an integrative wellness center that, and it's the only brick and mortar business that I know of that is completely dedicated to body positivity. Like, we really wanted to create a fun environment at Body Positive Works. We didn't want it to be institutional. I mean, when Melanie and I first met, we're like, we want it to be in a house, like a really cute, you know, quirky house, you know, with a lot of character. And sure enough, we found this place. It was crazy. It was like the universe intervening. And one of the things that we do here is we have like a gift shop or a boutique, and we sell things on consignment from local artists. So everything from jewelry to clothing to artwork. It's a really nice way for us to offer support for those artists and designers, and also just for our clientele to have access to like totally unique gifts for themselves, gifts for their family. People can come here and it's free of all of those body shaming messages or exercise shaming messages or any type of shaming messages that we'll encounter anywhere. It's about, where's my body's natural weight? Where can I live? How can I live and not let this rule my life every day? You know, we offer a lot of different programs here, and really, in order for us to consider a program or a service here, it almost doesn't matter exactly what it is, as long as it embraces our philosophy, which is to try to find some comfort. I'm not even going to say love your body, you know, like that's for some people such a stretch, and some people, you know, so I don't want to say, oh, you come here and you love your body. I don't say that either, because it's important for me to be authentic and say, you know, some days I do, some days I don't, but I'm trying. All these tools that we offer help me, you know, more than anything else. So that's what we embrace here, is really like making kind of like healing the relationship between the mind and body. There's no judgment. We have no mirrors. Remind yourself your body's temporary and it's meant to change, and it needs to be nourished, not tortured and starved. And that your body will never lie if you can just let your mind be quiet enough for you to think about it.
So fashion and media, I think, started, and they kind of spark that bad self-worth, that bad comparison culture, but it's the peers that kind of implement it more, because peers have an unsurmountable amount of influence on yourself and your mental state.
I think within our program, we as fashion faculty and as an advisor are absolutely here for our students beyond a 4-year plan and an internship, you know, study abroad, that if there's a problem from at home or within, that you can talk to any one of us, and we might then at least help find you the resources that you need. I don't feel like I've heard anything on this campus if someone is really suffering from an eating disorder.
The pressures of school, of peers,
Insane.
and college is insane.
It's insane.
And going into looking for jobs and internships, it's all like very triggering.
Yeah.
And so I think that they need more and different, maybe means like providing more counselors, or maybe it means extending hours or something. I think that needs to be looked into. I think something needs to change, and there needs to be more resources available for when it comes to eating disorders. That goes again back to the mental health and our self-confidence. And I think more, I don't even know what type of resources can be available, maybe more like support groups.
Like this program and interacting with this program when it has to do with diversity and inclusivity is asking students to think critically about who they're designing for and how they're forwarding culture with their fashion. It's not just about selling.
Like it has to touch somebody's heart. Like who is going to have a better day because of this collection or this event or this story that you told?
I think we're moving in the right direction. You know, we are getting more plus size forms. We're expanding the faculty to get a bunch more points of view, and that's really important and really valuable.
what are you reading that's making you feel like you're not enough, and stop reading it. Also noticing, who are you spending your time with? I'm not saying to shut yourself. Obviously, if you have a close group of friends or family members that are constantly body shaming, like, you can't necessarily physically get away, but you can speak up, like if you are around someone that's constantly talking about how gross they are because they ate this or ate that, that's going to make you feel the same way. We're all mirrors for each other. So either speak up or just, find other ways, other people to spend time with that don't, necessarily care that much about that or don't spend their time talking about that.
For myself, I love affirmation, like words of positive affirmation. I love just leaving myself little notes and letting myself know that, like, it's all good, you're all good, you have another life on this planet, you're healthy, you're walking, you're just everything. The little things, the trivial things, they don't matter, essentially. And so the way that you personally maybe feel about your body today, that's okay, because your body's fine. And it's the words of positive affirmation that get me through the times that I'm just not feeling too hot about myself, and talking to other people about it as well. Like, I love talking to other people about just staying positive. Positivity is my thing, okay? So I love it, and I just want to have that conversation with everybody.
So recently I came up with like the little like mantra for myself of like, you are brilliant. And like sometimes I'll just like wake up and like, you're brilliant. Like, you're doing the things that you wanted to do when you were little. They kind of changed, the past kind of changed, but like, you're succeeding. Like, you're going to classes, you're like leading teams, you're dressing how you want to dress. Like, you are brilliant. And it's different from like, you are beautiful, because that's external, but brilliant is like, you are so smart, like, you are shining.
I do actually have some written affirmations on my mirrors. I have, you are free, you are enough, you are worthy, you are deserving, you are loved, you are healthy.
When I look in the mirror and I'm feeling myself in the morning, which I usually do, especially lately, the thought is like, you are now one of your own idols. Like, I've slowly become everything that I respect and I love and I admire in people, and I've been, in so many ways, like aesthetically, but also internally, and being able to really be friends with myself in that way. It's like, I am my own idol. I am the picture that I save on Instagram, and I go out and I walk through the Marist campus and people are staring at me and eyeing my outfit up and down, and probably they're judging the crap out of me, but I feel so good about it because I look different, which can only mean I look like myself.
Yeah.
The things that you do every day affect yourself and other people, even if you don't realize it. And it's important for you to be here.
In terms of the corporate system and those industries, money talks. So when you go out and are shopping, think about where you spend your money. And like the Victoria's Secret example, they weren't listening to what we were saying, and they weren't listening to the body positivity movement. But when people stopped shopping there and stopped putting their money towards their message, they finally got that message, and they said, oh, maybe this is wrong and maybe something is happening here. And unfortunately, I think that's one of the only ways that you can truly get your point across in the larger industry is through where you spend your money and where you give your attention on social media and just raising awareness at a higher level.
And we need to have those uncomfortable conversations and try to understand each other, like have a different perspective, and rather than just coming in with your opinion, just like be open to hear what other people have to say and their own personal struggles if they have that, because everybody has struggles or just whatever it may be. I think we all need to engage in conversation.
Just acknowledge and listen to men's stories, allow men to be vulnerable, encourage them to be vulnerable. Continue, if you're comfortable, continue speaking about your eating disorder and your experience with them, and become the resistance of sorts.
What are you doing in your community? Things like this, what you are doing right now, Dylan, is revolutionary. People who choose to talk about it, let's be open about it, let's be open about our stories, let's be open about how we feel, because that's how we move forward. And supporting everybody who feels that way, rather than pushing them aside, putting them down.
I've come this damn far, and I refuse to go back to such a dark mindset, to such a dark, cold cage. So yeah, that's definitely what keeps me going, and it just also reminds me about the person I am. I am strong, I am resilient, I am worthy, and I am free. So it's not just about my body, but the person I am. It's uncaged. I'm an uncaged human being, and it feels really good to just put it out there and say that to myself. But yeah, so thank you.